Good morning again. I hope everybody's having a great day. Apparently, I'm having some fun with Facebook. I'm thinking that Facebook and Zoom are the problem. They're not quite synced up right yet. And when I choose to go with the new way that Facebook wants me to connect, it doesn't do it. And I mean, it did this morning. It actually connected me, and I was on air for what, 2 minutes and 48 seconds, and then it dumped me off. So I don't know what else to think. So, welcome. If you're just joining me, grab your cup of coffee or tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening up in the sky. And as I was saying when I was so rudely interrupted, the day today is very interesting astrologically because we are in the supermoon, we are in a full moon, which is called the full pink moon. Not sure, I didn't take the time this morning to look that up to find out what that means, but we're in that full moon state today, or at least preparing for that. It does not happen until later on in the day, but it isn't the only thing happening today. There are many different transits occurring before the full moon, during the full moon, and then immediately after this full moon today. So let's see if we can't break this down. I do want to talk about the full moon, but I'm going to hold off talking about that until just a little bit here. Let's talk about the transits that are really empowering us today, or powering the energy of the day. And two of those are easier, but the main one is going to be a Mars transit, which is a little bit trickier. So let's break this down. Today we have Mars in a square to the planet Uranus. Remember, Mars is now in Aquarius. So he's taken on new energies, right? He's got this energy of freedom, a freedom fighter for humanity, perhaps we could call him. In this case, he's also wanting the freedom that Aquarius loves and craves, actually, to take action when they want to and to not take action when they don't want to. But today he comes up against the planet Uranus in a 90-degree angle, which is a square. And a square is a challenge. So it's like the two of them are challenging one another. Uranus being the great awakener, the great shocker, the planet that brings us surprises and things that happen when we least expect it, and coming into Mars warrior energy. So we could have some conflicts today. There's sort of a rebellious nature of the energy. And I worry just a titch about this because it makes me think that people who are getting very tired of being in their stay home, stay healthy state might be just chomping at the bit, ready to get out there and just flaunt those stay at home, stay healthy rules. I especially worry about it here in our state because we're looking at a week full of beautiful weather, and we've had a very rainy season this year. And so people are just like wanting to get out there. So this is not a time, though, to actually act upon that impulse. It is a time to allow the things that are we know to be safety making to carry on, right? So, but there is some unpredictability in all of this, and you and I may know that that's what's happening and that's what's driving our irritation or our tension. But other people who don't know anything about astrology won't recognize that. So they may be feeling so confined that for them it's about breaking out, right? Feeling so restrained that they want to go out and let that go. It adds to the sort of impulsive nature of the energy that we're experiencing today. So we can be tempted to take risks and to impulsively engage in things that we know are not appropriate for us. A square, remember, is always going to be a challenge to us. And if we're feeling that energy inside, it's not that there aren't things that we can do to alleviate that. We could go out, we could do all kinds of things. We could garden, we could tear apart a closet. I'm betting we're getting tired of this though. I say it, I'm thinking to myself, if I have to look at one more cupboard or closet and attempt to clean it, I'm just going to spit. But yesterday I did get out into the garden, and that was really helpful in letting some of that energy go, right? Pulling those weeds that have accumulated over the first parts of spring here, and maybe, getting ready to pot something, I don't know. To me, there are things that we could consciously connect with, even if it's walking or biking or doing some exercises, getting some yoga in or doing some meditation. All of these things can help alleviate some of that crazy, combative, unpredictable energies for the day today. But the last thing that you want to do is anything risky, anything that is impulsive, or can get you into trouble, right? Today, you really, really want to watch your P's and Q's that way. Now, on the lighter side, we have Mercury, the planet of communication and the planet of the mind and what we're thinking about, still in the later degrees of Pisces, right? He's not given up Pisces until Friday this week. And he comes into a sextile, which is a good relationship. That's a 60-degree relationship with both Pluto and Jupiter. Now, this is about long-term change. This is about the slow burning energy that it takes to make change on a planet. Where Mars and Uranus is the faster stuff, right? And we've had lots of Uranian moments where things, get out of control really quickly. And this is about that long-term change. So we're in it for the long haul. And this is about raising our frequency in the midst of all of this and becoming more enlightened. So what does that mean for us? Well, we're on that spiral of consciousness, remember? This is about our becoming more conscious, more aware, more purposeful in what it is that we're applying our frequencies to. So with Mercury in the sextile to Pluto and one to Jupiter as well, who those two, Pluto and Jupiter, just came into a conjunction on Saturday. They're not even that far apart from each other. So really, we're still looking at a Mercury conjunct, a Mercury sextile, a conjunct Pluto and Jupiter. So we have the opportunity for big things to happen. And to me, this spells the word that kept coming to my mind was peak. Right, we're reaching a peak. Is that the peak that we have heard about with the virus, and maybe some states coming to that point where they're reaching their peak because they did what they needed to early enough in terms of sheltering in place or staying home and staying healthy, closing down, all but the essential businesses. I don't know, but it does sort of speak to that, I believe. And that for the short term, I believe some places are going to find that they've reached that peak, flattening out that curve, if you will. And even though this may take longer to disappear, at least it is in a smaller curve. So it's not blasting out the hospitals, where other places, by virtue of the population or the things that have gone on, the lack of equipment, etc., have still got this higher peak that they're reaching to. But all in all, to me, when I looked at this, I went, wow, that really looks like peak energy, like we're coming to the top of the mountain. So for the long term, this is about the change that all of this brings to the planet and to our awareness as human beings, and to how we must better prepare perhaps then for the eventual next pandemic type of thing. So there might be talk about that. How do we, rebuild now that maybe some of the fire is burning a little bit lower? But for us as individuals, it's about how do we raise our frequency and get out of that old paradigm where we're looking for those conspiracies, where we're looking to blame, where we've gotten into victim energy. So we're needing to release all of that and move away from that while embracing the new, right? Embracing a new consciousness around this. Okay, so let's take a look, see if people are out there. Sue McCarthy, happy full moon to you too. Colleen says, same in New Jersey with the weather, and they are predicting more deadly, this to be the deadliest week. We already had more deaths from the virus than September 11th. Good morning again, Colleen says. Yes, good morning again. And it wasn't you, it was me. It wasn't even me, it was Facebook or Zoom or something. I don't even know what it is anymore. It just totally cracked. Now it's sort of amusing, right? It's Janet again. Oh, there she goes, right? She's blipped off into another reality. LOL, right? So good morning, Elisa, and anybody else who I missed, because now I had to go back in using the old method. So now I'm back to only seeing the first 4 comments, which sucks, but it's okay. Maybe they'll keep working on it and get things fixed up for us. I don't know. So let's take a look now at the full moon. The full moon occurs at 7:35 p.m. Pacific time, which would be 10:35 for you all on the East Coast. For those of you in Europe and parts further east, that would be going over into tomorrow, so April 8th as opposed to the 7th. And again, this is the super moon, so it's a very empowered moon. It is highly energetic. It is very active or activated, or maybe activating for all of us, helping us with those epiphanies and those breakthroughs. Remember, that's a full moon. It brings us to that aha energy, that revelation energy. And there's the possibility then for breakthroughs where we have been stuck or where we've been sort of caught up in, hitting our heads up against the wall, perhaps. It could bring things into completion. And that's another possibility because a full moon brings on those endings, but those endings that lead to new beginnings. So it's not like your life just falls out or the bottom falls out. There are new beginnings implied in that as well. So really interesting things can happen when you stay awake and aware and ready for the initiation to the next higher level. And those are words that go right along with the sun in the gate 51 for us this week in our human design. So now I want to take you to, I'm going to take you, let me see if I can share I got to go back to Zoom, hold the phone, going to share my screen and show you one of the slides that I used in the April webinar for the people who belong to the Living Astrology Academy, but I did want to just share this with you guys today because this is the chart of the full moon. It is happening from April 7th through 8th. Obviously, for those of you in Europe, it's going to be tomorrow morning. 19 degrees of Libra Aries, technically speaking, 18 degrees, 44 minutes, so very close to 19 degrees. And there are our times, 10:35 East Coast, 2:35 a.m. in the Universal Time Code. It is a super moon. It is the closest to Earth. So there are 3 super moons for the full moons this year. We had one yesterday. We had one in March. The biggest or superest of the moons is here in April. And then we also have a super moon in May. The new moon super moons don't happen until September, October, and November. So this is our closest approach. And in the first of my broadcasts this morning, I told you at 11:08 a.m., I believe it is. Maybe it was 11:35 a.m. No, that's 7:35. So it was 11:08 a.m. my time, was when the moon would actually come the closest during this lunation period. And that was at 221,000 miles from Earth. Very close, right? I mean, that's literally not that far when you think about how far other planets are from us. The moon, 221,000 miles, and the sun, 93 million miles away. So you can see why it is that moon is going to look so big because it's very close to us. Now, this is a tricky full moon, and I have a whole host of reasons here that I want to talk about. First of all, the moon is in an inconjunct to Neptune. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a minute and go to my, let's see if I can do it from here. I'm going to share the human design chart for the day. Nope, that is not the one I wanted to share. I guess I have to open it up first. Hold on. Hold, please. I want to show you the just now chart for the day. There we go. Now I can share that because it shows very clearly where we have a lot of energy focus for all of us. And here we go. That's not it. There we go. Okay, so here's our just now chart. Now, just now meaning that it is from the moment I drew up the chart. And you'll note here that the moon is at gate 48, but during the full state, it's going to have moved over here to the gate 57, which is also where the Earth is. So when we have a full moon, in your human design, it looks like the Earth and the moon are in a conjunction, while the sun is in an opposition. So, and the 2 opposing gates here are 51, where the sun is, the gate of shock or initiation or awakening, and the Earth being at the gate 57, which is the gate of intuition or clarity. And also then when we get to the full moon, the moon will also be here. So this is emphasizing the nature of the gate 57, where the fear in this gate is about what comes next. It's about a fear of the future, of being afraid of what might go down 6 months from now, or a year from now, or a week from now, or 24 hours from now, where we tend to be as humans very much looking at time other than the moment that we're in. So if the power, let's say, of the spleen energy here, this is the spleen, is in being in the now, but some of these gates will take us out of the timing of now and into a fear of something happening, repeating from the past perhaps, or something that's going to happen down in the future, but not quite our looking at what is happening right here in this moment. So every moment, then we have this opportunity to bring ourselves back to the now, just by releasing our need to look with fear at the future. And by going within, I think a lot of the energy of the spleen teaches us about going within and realizing that we've let go of the most powerful inner energies that we carry as human beings, our connection to intuition, to instinct, to the divine. And here is what we are being reminded of then during this full moon today, is that the Earth and the moon together are really bringing us to that inner world, to that clarity that we can get from our intuition. And that helps us stay out of the way of shock, to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, to stay away from in the right time, in the right place with the wrong people, right? To stay away from those kinds of situations. So our inner voice, very powerful right now. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute. And I want to go back to our chart that we were looking at of the full moon. And hello, there we go. And here's our, there we go. Okay, so when the moon then is in an inconjunct to Neptune, Neptune represents our spirituality. It represents our connection to the divine. It represents unconditional love, but it also represents all the blurred lines, right? All the things that we don't see clearly, all the interference patterns, the delusions, the illusions, the things that we just don't see clearly, the deceptions, the conspiracies, all of those kinds of things that are in our way create this interference pattern. And on a day like today with a full moon that is inconjunct, then it is something that we have to adjust in our inner world. And inconjunct is a highly difficult, let's say, transit to make. Even though they call it a minor aspect, it's one that really makes it difficult for us to tune in, as in there's too much noise, right? Have you ever had, remember the old time transistor radios or the big box radios, and how difficult it was to get to the right place on the dial? And if you didn't, you had all that static that interfered with your being able to hear the true voice of the person that was speaking, or the music that was coming across your radio. Well, that's kind of what this does. It sort of makes that interference pattern so powerful that we can't quite tune in. So it really takes a powerful connection to the mind and our being able to let go of all of that interference pattern, what people are saying, what the news is telling us, what our fears are. Those are all interference patterns that once we let go of them, then we can take advantage of this energy and course correct to be in alignment with our inner knowing. Now, the sun is in a semi-sextile to Neptune. So here's where our helper is. We are, a semi-sextile is a 30-degree angle. And a 30-degree angle isn't positive really or negative either. It's sort of a neutral aspect. But it can help us to see the benefits of going within, in this case, of being more connected to our intuition. It maybe helps us more fully connect or want to connect with our inner voice, with our inner divineness. There is also a square. Now, this will have to go back in history a titch, back to January 10th's lunar eclipse, which was at 19 degrees, 54 minutes of Cancer. Doesn't that number sound a little bit familiar? That's only a degree away from exact squaring the sun and the moon in this particular lunation. So it brings us back to what was going on during that lunar eclipse. Remember, the lunar eclipse is a letting go time. It is a gateway, a portal, can only be a full moon that a lunar eclipse occurs at. And it's like a portal of, to me, it's like the open window where you can throw out what doesn't work, right? What no longer serves. We're letting go, we're letting go, we're letting go, we're releasing, so that we can maybe come into the next time period more clear. But knowing us as humans, we tend to hold on to our fantasies. We tend to hold on to our beliefs and our certainties and all of the things that we think or we want to believe are true that likely are not. And here's our next opportunity then with this full moon. We may see clearly now that there's something else that in our world that we needed to release, that we needed to let go of. So that can be difficult for some people, right? That haven't we, suffered enough here? Haven't we had to let go of enough? And this may be just the next step in order to really clear your pathway for what comes next. And then, of course, we have Mars square Uranus. We talked about that first this morning, that adds that rebellious, combative, and unpredictability to the day, and also then to this moon. Mercury sextiling Pluto and Jupiter. Positive experiences, though, looking at the long-term change wrought upon the planet during this period of time. And it's not just me that says we can never go back. There's a lot of people saying the world has changed forever. And in what ways has the world changed forever? And how quickly do we go back to our old habits and our old ways of being? That's what I'm really interested in looking at now. How easily is it for us to go back, just like it was in 2008 when the recession crashed our economy, and those same things, those same products that created an economic turndown then, mortgages and subprime lending and all of that kind of stuff, started back up, not, just 5 years into the recovery of that, to the point where even now mortgages again are teetering on that edge. And we already know the banks are having to really work with this energy to try to keep going, and more corporations having to close their doors and go through. It's almost like a carbon copy of it, but with just a different kicker that started it, and one that's maybe much more devastating. Are we going to rebuild things again the same way, or do we try something new? That's the question, right? Because Pluto and Jupiter in that conjunction, and Mercury sextiling that conjunction, they're sitting at the gate 61, the psychosis, our tendency to redo things the same way over and over and over again, and expecting a new outcome, but never getting that because we're still trying to do it the old way. So we'll see what happens here. The moon in Libra is squared to Capricorn. Remember, we talked about this. Anytime we have anything in Aries and anything in Libra, it squares the sign of Capricorn. And that's where those planets are. Here's Capricorn, by the way. Where did you go? Right here. This is Capricorn energy. And here's our moon in Libra squaring it. And here's our sun in Aries also squaring the planets that are here. They are a little bit offset from the sun and moon, are a little offset from the Jupiter, Pluto, Chariklo, Pallas, Athena conjunction, but not that far away, right? So there's still more to be kind of dropping away. Then we also have Sun and Eris close to conjunction. In this red circle here, you can see the Sun. This is the first symbol, and then Eris herself. The Sun at almost 19 degrees, Eris at 23, almost 24 degrees. So they're really very, 4 or 5 degrees from one another, which means later this week we have a Sun-Eris conjunction. And that to me spells discord, disruption, a spotlight on some of the things that are creating havoc. It might be a jump in numbers of the virus cases in places that have refused to do the things that they needed to do in order to protect their people. It could be a coming to task for the things that we haven't been doing, because there's nothing that Eris likes better than discord and craziness. And then, of course, the sun at the gate 51 of shock until the 10th. So through Thursday, and on Saturday or on Friday moves into a new gate. So we have craziness around this moon. We have some discord possibly thrown in here. We have some really positive energy if we can stay to our inner self, into our intuition, and be listening to that inner voice, that smaller, still small voice, the one that we have to shut off all of that noise outside of us to hear clearly. But we can make it through this, right? So by contrast, just to tell you, the new moon, see if I can do that, the new moon is not nearly as crazy. In fact, there's some really good stuff that happens with that new moon, where I think we finally get to turn the corner. So we can get through this. We can do this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go over to Facebook and see how people are doing with that. Good morning, Monique. And everybody saying happy full moon. So no questions, nothing going on. Everybody doing well. If you have questions, let me know here. While I'm waiting for people to come up with questions about the full moon, or maybe you want to know where the full moon is in your own chart, let me know that as well. You just need to look for Libra. Let's go into the Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day. Today we are at 3 planting. Remember, the number is the universal energy of the day. So it is where we are, no matter what life form, what we are resonating to, what the frequency is, the vibe, right? The vibe of the day is creating energy, which is what the 3 is. So here's about what we think at the level. So when we set intentions, by the way, when we set intentions for something that we want to manifest, or for a way of being that we want to accommodate, it's very important to hear the thoughts that are going on in your mind as you set those intentions. Because if you're setting an intention for prosperity, but what your mind is focused on is what you don't have, or how you're losing your job, or, whatever, big things, right? But if you're setting the intention while still holding those thoughts in your head, they're going to come home to roost on the number 3 here, on the 3 day, because what we think at the level of intention is what really matters. So if you're thinking one thing while intending something else, you're sending out mixed signals to the universe. And then what you get is a creation that's a bit wobbly, right? That doesn't quite show you what it is that you really wanted. So with the number 3, we really begin to see the results of what our thoughts have been focused on in those intentions. So by now you should really be able to see from the new moon, even, or from the one breathing energy that we just entered into 2 days ago, what might be happening in your world. And if you don't like what you see, then you need to go to your mind and see how those thoughts that you might be thinking are either in alignment or out of alignment with what it was you intended, right? This is like a checkpoint in that for us. There is real opportunity for creating and sharing today from your true and authentic self, but it is also a restless energy. Remember, 3 in and of itself is an energy that sometimes scatters that frequency, that is quickly jumping from thing to thing. It can be a bit restless, and if that gets caught up in that whole Mars square Uranus energy, it can make for some, interesting risk taking that we probably shouldn't be engaging in. So be very careful with that. Today, the Earth energy of your Pleiadian calendar is in planting. Planting energy was Kan in the Mayan calendar, which was represented by the seed. And the seed was often a representation of corn. Corn was the basis of the life of the food life of the Maya. And so it was a very important crop to them. It represented life, and the blessing of the seeds and the planting of the seeds then were thought to be a lucky process, right? They were intending for a crop that was going to be bountiful. So this can be a real lucky day in terms of what we plant. New ideas, maybe new perspectives, new ways of doing things, new ways of looking at the world, new certainties, maybe letting go of the old and bringing in the new. Opportunities, maybe in business, maybe in relationships, adventures that are in the offing as we are looking down the road that are all right here for us as soon as we get through some of these things that are bigger in scope in the world. So again, when we say the world is changed, the world is changed, but it doesn't mean that it's now without opportunities. It's just we have to rearrange our thinking and our way of being to encompass that new world, right? So being creative and adventurous, looking at things in new ways, turning it upside down, right? And looking at it differently. So that is the energy of the day. Remember, breathing energy was the umbrella for the whole 13-day period that we are now in. And that is an energy also of change and bringing up new ideas, a new way of looking at old problems. And it can be very lucky for those of us who are able to do that. And it can be very restless making or angry making, even for those people who get caught up in the wistfulness of wanting the past, right? Wanting the past, yearning for what is no longer. So we want to be careful about doing that as well. Okay. Lexi, hey. Sorry, I haven't been on. The energy just hasn't been there. Totally with you. Amy says, sending mixed signals to the universe. Yes, guilty. Amy would say, I wouldn't say I'm doing well. Solitude is really getting to me. I'm not going to break the rules and go out, but everything you said makes a lot of sense to me. And yeah, and so find ways, Amy, then to maybe connect with other people. There's, this program that I use in the morning called Zoom, which even though somehow it's always screwing, I'm not sure it's Zoom that's messing up. I really think it's Facebook and their algorithms that are messing things up here. But Zoom itself is a great way to connect with your friends and your family face to face, and without being in the same room together. So I know it's difficult, but there are ways that we can reach out. I've talked to more neighbors in passing, right? It was funny. Oh, I got to share this with you because it was so wonderful. So, people right now who are having birthdays are kind of stuck in this. I can't have a birthday party. I can't go out dancing, or I can't go out and do the things that I want to do. So there are all of these interesting things that people are doing. So yesterday, or must have been Saturday, I was coming back, whatever day I went into town, I was coming back in from town, and somebody's birthday here on the island just down the street from me, and his wife maybe had put a big white sign out and tied balloons on the sign, and I thought, oh no, someone's having a party in this time. But what it said on the sign was, honk, today is Bill's birthday. So people driving by were honking their horn and yelling out their windows to say hi to Bill and wish him a happy birthday. So there are creative ways to go and engage in the world in a way, right? In Italy, they were talking about people looking out their windows and singing to one another. I don't know, but there's Messenger. Somebody, Lex, if you ever want to chat on Messenger or video chat, everybody is out there and willing to support one another. There's no reason to sit there in your sadness or, anger or upset. Reach out to someone. Mimi, well, that makes my mind up. I need a bag of topsoil as I have some seeds to spread. Mask up and go out into the world for the soil and few other needs. My once a week adventure into the world. Indeed. And what a great idea. Yesterday, I did have to go to the grocery. It was yesterday. Yesterday was the day. And I had to wear a mask, and I hate wearing a mask. I hate anything across my face at all. And yet I did it just because, out of an abundance of caution. And the nice thing about going on Zoom with your family or friends is that you don't have to mask up. Right? There's no need for that at all. But if you have to go out, then go ahead and do that safely, but within reason, right? Monique says, I can go out as I am in the country, literally no one around, so not confined, isolated, but free to move around. Definitely feels regular, except when going into town for groceries. Yeah, the birthday idea was awesome. Wasn't that awesome? Anyway, so there's use your creativity, right? Find ways to let yourself get some freedom of movement, freedom to go somewhere. I think I said this earlier, but this is probably the most difficult for manifesting generators. who are used to being able to multitask and do many things with many different things, different fingers and different pies. And right now you may feel a bit like your wings are clipped. That doesn't mean, though, that you have to go down with this. It just means you have to find other ways to keep yourself busy. And there are plenty of ways to do that, right? You just have to be unique, creative, and think outside of the box a bit. Jan says, I made my weekly trip yesterday and got lots of soil with my groceries too. I love digging in the dirt. Good. Stephanie, thanks for encouraging stories. I love hearing about the creative ways people are reaching out and being together. It's really kind of great to see that. I think I told you guys that, my husband and I, we had our anniversary on Friday, and it was the first time that we weren't able to do like a party or, get together, a family dinner, because we usually do that. We come together for that, celebration. And Terry and I were like, oh, wow, well, what are we going to do? And my daughter, sneaky that she is, told me that I needed to get on Zoom with her to help her figure out for her son's schooling, how to, share his screen. And I went, oh, I'm great with that. I do this every day. No clue that what she was really doing was putting the whole family together on Zoom for me and for my husband to celebrate our anniversary. It was really awesome. It brought tears to my eyes. It was really kind of moving. How, we have the ability, we have the technology. If this was happening 100 years ago, it might even be worse because we didn't have the technology to do any of this. So play with some ideas of how to get together with people. I got to tell you this, Wendy Cheery, I don't know if you listen to my shows in the morning, but she reached out to me on one day this weekend. And she said she was sad and she was depressed and she didn't know what to do. And this was really getting to her. And just a few encouraging words from me. I don't remember what I even said. And every day now she texts me, hold on, I got to tell you what the message is, because then it gives me this opportunity to work with her. Every day so far, she says, I was telling her, we were talking about stress and worry. So one day she sends me, have a worry-free day. The next day she sends me, have a stress-free day. And then that gives me the opportunity to, I told her, have a love-filled, beautiful day yesterday, because it was moon in Libra. So people reach out to one another, right? You don't have to reach out to me, but you can reach out to one another, someone, any friend out there, because if you're feeling low, someone else might be feeling low, and you can cheer each other up with that's just through Messenger, I think it was, or text messaging, things like that. So use your tools. You have them, use them, right? If you have them, use them. And don't be afraid to do that. So I don't know how many people, I don't even know Wendy other than through astrology. So, we don't need to know each other. So periodically we can just reach out to one another and just say hi, thinking about you. Here's a heart. Have a beautiful day. Just as a way to be able to support one another, right? Lex, ooh, the vibration of her words changed. Indeed, right? She was down and now she's not. And it's just fun things that we can do. Don't be afraid to reach out like that, because we can't do it any other way right now, right? We're missing that person-to-person contact in physical, one-on-one and touch, but we don't have to not touch people with our words of encouragement and love during this time period. So there we have it. Linda Maurice, what kind of rituals do you recommend for this full moon? What kind of intentions do we look at which house Libra is in our chart? And that is the area of our lives the full moon highlights. So much I could say about that. So when we set intentions at the new moon, we're sending out the message that we want something new to begin, that we're opening up to something new. At the full moon, we can do the same thing, intention setting, but maybe it's about what we need to release. What's still a stumbling block or a limit or something that's going on in your life that you would like to see come to an end. So the intention's a little different at the full moon as opposed to the new moon. New moon, we're opening up to all that's new. In the full moon, we're letting go of some things perhaps that have been in our way. So the intentions are a little bit different at the full moon. Now, a lot of people at the full moon burn they take something like on a piece of paper. Maybe you need to release your reliance on whatever it is. Let's say whatever house your Libra is in. Let's say it's the third house, and you need to let go of something in your mind, thoughts in your mind that are no longer serving you. So you could write those thoughts down on a piece of paper and burn them, and as a way of releasing them to the universe. And of course, you do that in a safe way over either a cauldron or a little, pot or something that, is safe to burn, a barbecue maybe, or a fire ring, that kind of thing. So it's an act of releasing, but people dance. There are, different mudras you can do. So it's your creative way of whatever it is that you want to release. What is dogging you, if you will, in your life that you would like to see released? And let's see, Linda Marie, I do not know that I've ever done a chart for you, but if you know where Libra is by house in your chart, that is the area of your life where releasing can happen, right? So if it's like the fourth house would be home and family, maybe there's something old there in your ancestral line that you want to release. Maybe there's I don't know, maybe something going on in the house, maybe that you want to let go of. It depends on where it is. If you know where it is, let me know that, and I can help you maybe determine how to do that. Colleen says there were stay-at-home mandates in 1918 for the Spanish flu. That's interesting, isn't it? Deb Johnson says, love. Mimi says, typically I do write it out. Yes to the full moon release. Then I include what I'm grateful for. Good one, Mimi. But followed by filling in what I want to bring in, then burn it to send it up to the universe. Perfect. Amy says, Libra second house and a little bit of the first house for me. So my guess then, Amy, is that the full moon would actually be in the second house because it's in the later degrees of Libra. But without seeing your chart, I can't confirm that. But if your second house begins before 18 degrees, 44 minutes, then it's the second house that this will be in. So maybe it's fears around prosperity. Maybe it's letting go of a way of earning that isn't really helping you any. There's a lot of opportunities that, you can think of with the second house. It could be around self-worth. Maybe you have to release low self-esteem and low self-worth in order to get to the prosperous you that you really want. So that could be what you're doing. She says, great recommendations. Letting go, or this is Linda Marie, Libra is in your first house in your chart. So for you, then it's a little different than the second house. The first house would be, what about you? Maybe there's a part of you that's still hanging on to some of that victim martyr energy. Maybe there's a part of you that hasn't quite claimed self-sufficiency. Maybe you haven't really, claimed all that you are and all that, like your personal authority. So you can release your attachment to doing things that other people want you to do. You got to take a look at your own life. And here's what else I've learned with astrology. If you look at your life, standing back, not even thinking about astrology for a moment, just looking at your life, and you can see what it is. I mean, we all have sort of an idea of what it is we might want to release, right? What's not working, or what might serve. What would if I could let go of anything right now, what would it be? Likely you are keying in through your intuition in the house that is where your full moon sits. So if there are personal changes that you think you need to go through, that if you could let go of something, it has to do with you personally, that would tell you it's your first house, likely where this full moon is happening for you. If it's money issues or financial concerns, that kind of thing, it's probably the second or the eighth house, depending on whether it's, money that comes from credit or grants or debts or things like that, or is it earning power? So wherever it is that you're feeling like I need to let go of this, but you have trouble letting it go, then this is a great time to do that. So you really don't have to know for certain what house it is happening in your chart, because intuitively, you probably already know what it is that you need to let go of. And even if it isn't the same house that would be where the full moon is, it's likely got some kind of connection to that full moon for you. So Libra is work for me. The fourth house, that would be the sixth house, I think, probably, Lex. The sixth house is the house of work, service, and health. It may be that you have to, maybe there's something you want to let go of around your working environment. Maybe you need to purify your environment that you're working in some way. Lots of different things that it could be there. Maybe you have to let go of something in order to serve your clients better. Not sure. And Amy says, well, that sounds like it fits for me. There you go. Deb Johnson says, mine is in the third and the fourth house. So not knowing, Deb, exactly how that's set up for you, it's possible if it's in the fourth house, it's about family or home and traditions, ancestry, something, a weakness in your foundation that you need to strengthen. If it's the third house, maybe it's something in your mind, thoughts that are persistent that are not of a beneficial type. And, or maybe it is something to do with how you communicate or don't communicate. Many different things that it could be there as well. All right. So any other questions? This is good. I love doing this kind of stuff. If not, that is it for me today. Remember, the moon is occurring later this afternoon, but it will, or this evening, 7:35 and 10:35 for those of you on the East Coast. But the super moon part, which you won't be able to visually connect with because it won't be in the sky yet, is this at 11 my time this morning. So 2 o'clock for those of you on the East Coast. So sometime between 11 and 2 is when the supermoon occurs. That may be where you're feeling the most pressure, the highest tides in the body, if you will. So if you feel that at around that time today, that would be why that feeling is there. And Lex says, yep, the 6th. Yep. So you also need to remember the energy. What is the Libra about, right? Libra is also about relationships and how we work together in this world, right? It's about the 3 C's: cooperation, collaboration, and co-creation. That's what I love about Libra, the 3 C's. And the 3 C's, how do we establish more of that in our lives? And you can quickly see, I think, when you're out of alignment with that, right? When you haven't been in a collaborative mood. And sometimes you have to collaborate with yourself. It isn't with, maybe it's about the relationship that you have with you, right? And what might you need to release around that for yourself? So there are a lot of different things that this could, oh yes. Oh, okay. So your work is so toxic. Now take a look at that. What is toxic in your work? And you don't have to share all of that with us, but take a look at what is toxic there. Is it the people that you work with that are toxic? Is it literally toxins? Maybe you're working in a laboratory sort of situation or in a construction field where you have to work with a lot of chemicals or things like that. Or is it just the attitude of the business or the kind of business it is? So what is toxic about your workplace? And then release whatever it is that's so toxic if you can. There are lots of things you can do. If you have a toxic environment around you, you can bring things in like bamboo or what do you call those things? Crystals like tourmaline. Black tourmaline is really good for repelling negativity. There are other crystals that are supportive. Whatever it is that's there, you can bring those things to your work environment that, help to detoxify your environment. Maybe it's time to think about getting a new job. There's that possibility. And I know that timing wise is not a great thing. But yesterday, my daughter got a new job. It was really fascinating. A new job where she will work remotely all the time. She will not have to be a medical assistant in a practice where sick people are coming in. And not that she isn't good at that, but working remotely, she can work with people on a different level. So that's a really good news for her. And so there's possibilities out there, right? There are lots of possibilities out there when you do not give up on yourself, when you do not let the circumstances of the outer world drive what it is that you think you can do or be or have. You got to let go of that. So the people for sure, well, the people then, that's going to be a tougher thing because you really can't make the people be any different than they are. But what you can do is change your perception of what is going on with those people. Maybe have more compassion. And I'm not saying that you're not compassionate, but maybe more compassion, more understanding. And maybe it's a process of just releasing yourself from their stories, Maybe helping them see that they can, create a new story. I don't know. I don't know the situation, but get creative, right? Be getting creative, but detoxifying your environment for sure. Mimi, I am thinking many more will have the opportunity to work at home from now on. This is good in so many ways. It is. It's really, it's really fascinating to watch it happen, isn't it? My other daughter's boyfriend is working at home. He would never ever have thought he could work at home. They all work together. My husband, my daughter, him, and they all work together at the same business. And he's in sales and bidding lighting jobs, let's say. And he would never have thought he could do that at home because he's so used to being around the people, but he's doing it at home and loving it. He said, I get to sit there in my, comfy clothes, right? And if I have to be on Zoom to talk with a client, I just, put on a nicer shirt. And the rest of the work that he does that he would be doing sitting at a desk, he can do sitting at a desk at home, right? And can do the same job without the need to be in person. So I think there's a lot of things that people are learning about how they can do their jobs at home. And those of us who already work at home, I haven't noticed any difference at all, like, in terms of how I feel about being isolated or anything like that, because I always am anyway. So it's not new for me, but for a lot of people, it's a totally different game. Stacy Beltran, good morning. She says Libra is in the 11th house for you. Ooh, this is a good one. So Libra in the 11th house would be taking you into who are you hanging out with? What are your friends? Who are your friends? Are you surrounding yourself with the people who love and support you, that you trust, that you have a taking care of one another sort of attitude? Or do you end up with groups of people that are not on the same, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they're not like minds. So you might have to change the people that you're working with. The other thing that happens with a full moon in the 11th house is reworking your dream, your vision, or your goals. So that's a possibility. Maybe you have to let go of some sacred cow, something that you've really wanted to create that isn't possible. And maybe it's the one stumbling block to getting around what you really want. And maybe by releasing it, it allows the space for something new to come in. So that's what your full moon is working around for you. And you're welcome, Lex. The 11th house is really a pretty interesting place for a full moon, because maybe there's just people that you can do without, and not because they're bad people, but just because maybe they're holding you back in some way, Stacy. So there's that. Or maybe there's a new group that you want to be a part of, and this maybe you're clearing out some space, making time to be with those people that really support you. Or it's all about the dream, baby, and what is it you want to create, and reworking that dream. Okay, I think that's it. I'm not seeing new comments popping up. You're most welcome, Lex. This is my fun stuff here. All right, so take care of one another. Stay out of risky behavior today. It's not a good time to flaunt the rules. It might bite you in the butt when you least expect it. Take care of one another, reach out to one another, and I'm sending you all love and hugs, and I will see you tomorrow morning right here at 8 o'clock Pacific time. All right, that's it for me. Take care. Bye now.